Today is June 6, 2014, and we are interviewing Jerome Rakers at Aveston Park. Jerome was born June 21st, 1942. My name is Cheryl Walker, and I'll be interviewing Mr. Rakers. Mr. Rakers, could you state for the record what war and branch of service you served in?
I was in the Army in the Vietnam War from 64 to 66.
And what was your highest rank?
E4, or Specialist 4.
Okay. Would you like to share with us your military story?
Yes, I would.
Okay, go ahead.
All right. We left California in April or late March of 65 and took a ship over to Vietnam, and we missed the typhoons in the sea as we was sailing over to that. We arrived in the edge of Vietnam, stopped over at Cam Bay, which was a supply depot of the military over there. After we got there, we was part of the big build-up in 65 when the war really got going and stuff. And they said the first night we was there, we seen tracers going from the island back and forth and stuff like that. From there, we dropped off some supplies and troops and went on down into Saigon. We got into Saigon the next day and disembarked the ship and went to our campsite, which was on the outskirts of Benoit Air Force Base, right along the railroad tracks. The night we arrived, it was raining and stuff like that. We sent the mass. I was in the headquarters battalion with 3 infantry companies with us. We sent a man out on a forward post, and about the middle of the night, once he got shot right between the eyes on the outpost. So then he brought him back. He said, and then a couple days later, we got our vehicles back from Saigon, and then we patrolled the area for a long time and stuff. We was the infantry, but jeeps and stuff, and we escorted convoys, infantry groups to different battles and different search and destroy missions throughout the area around Saigon and Benoit Air Force Base and all over Saigon and stuff during that time. And then later on in the year, we went up to Pleiku. We spent a month right off the Air Force Bay of Pleiku because there was a big battle going on there in the hills north of Pleiku, and they had a airplane there with a Gatling gun, the C-63 Air Force plane. They had the Gatling gun, and the Vietnamese didn't like that too good. The Viet Cong and the Gooks, whatever you want to call them, they didn't like that. Whenever he sent them out, them boys started running for the hiding places and stuff. And that plane was stationed there, and we seen it leave and come back a few times while we was on the outpost there. We went on a couple search and destroy missions there at different times. We uncovered a bunker one time over there, and a friend of mine found the bunker and destroyed the bunker and got promoted there on the spot right after we got back to camp. But like I said, that was a move. From there, we flew out to Phuket, which is north, just south of Da Nang. We was there for a day or so and checked around there and this and that. And then we come back to Pleiku, and after that we went back to our home base about Benoit, and then we started escorting trucks. They was building a new base camp for our company for the 1st Division, which was a little bit further south, and we was escorting troops and stuff. And every day we go through the Vietnam villages with our jeeps and bulldozers on the trucks and road raiders and stuff, just destroy their markets. They didn't like us coming through there at 7, 8 o'clock in the morning with our big equipment and stuff like that. And then we had, while we was doing that, in between time, we always had one company was where it was called Charlie Company, which had about 150 men in when we went over. And by the time I left there in March of 66, they had enough men to make one fire squad, which was a dozen people. It was all that was left in that company. That company, every time we would go on a search and destroy mission, we got hit by Vietnamese, Viet Cong and stuff. Whatever, to make a difference wherever we went. When we was with that company, we always got hit. We'd run into some kind of ambush somewhere, times and this and that. And them men got tore up real bad. A bunch of them got killed and stuff. I do not know their names, but I know my first sergeant, after a week of being overrun by Viet Cong, fell asleep one morning, early in the morning, with a grenade with the pin pulled. He was in the foxhole with the company XO, which was a second lieutenant, and the company commander, which was a captain at the time. He fell asleep, he got killed, and the company XO got killed, and the company commander was wounded pretty bad, and they flew him out. And McNamara, Robert McNamara, the Secretary of Defense, was supposed to come that next day to our camp, and he had a few choice words for the guy in charge, whoever was in charge, to give McNamara, but I won't repeat the words. It was not repeatable, but which everybody agreed with. But he had comments. Sorry about the fly. Well, they said that's what we did. We just search and destroy, run into anthills, run into this. We was out on patrol at night, set up Claymore mines and this and that, out on the off-beaten path where the Vietnam was coming, Viet Cong were coming through. But lucky enough, we never hit any. On our nights, we was out on a patrol mission and stuff like that. But rain all the time, rain, more rain than you want to think about, stuff like that. So, and other than that, that was about it. We lost a couple of guys in our immediate company, not too bad. But 2 days before I left, my company went on a mission with some other, and a young man that took my place got hurt, got shot. He never got killed, but he got shot, hurt pretty badly, because he took my position as a machine gunner with the company. So, and then after that, I got shipped back to Saigon, and from that I flew home. 20 days getting there and 20 hours getting back. I'll never forget it. All I lived. I said, that's pretty well on the mission. Like I said, we escorted trucks and convoys and stuff pretty well. One place, one day we was taking a group of troops through a small village. We had to check the bridges ahead of time to see if there was any bombs or anything under the bridge, and that was because we had an escort for this company of infantrymen on deuce and a halves. And we come to this bridge and stuff, and as we stopped, it was on the edge of town, and some kid on a bicycle threw a bomb underneath the truck and just blew up the truck with about 20, 25 guys on it, and just tore the heck out of the truck and killed 3 or 4 guys, and the rest of the guys run to the village and destroyed the village right there on the spot. But they were so mad, because it was every time they go someplace they were getting hurt like that. But it was a terrible deal for any young man there. I feel sorry. The name's on the wall here. I respect every man that gave his life for it, because he did something for his country and paid the ultimate price. That's about it. Thank you.
Why did you go over by ship?
Well, that's the way we went, because we was one of the first companies. We was the first infantry division that ever went to Vietnam. The rest were Marines, advisors, and airborne. We was the first infantry outfit that went over, and we took a ship. As fast as means of it, no. It was a slow trip. Like I said, it took us 20 days, and we missed a big typhoon. Our vehicles was on a ship behind us, and they hit the typhoon and stuff like that. But that's the reason we went. I don't know why, but that's where they put us on a ship. About 5,000 guys on a $3,000 man ship. We was crammed in it. So.
Did you get seasick?
No, knock on wood, I made it, because I had a friend that was in our company. He was a cook, and he told me what to do. He said eat a lot of bread and stuff like that, fresh baked bread and stuff, and don't watch and stuff, and you'll be all right. And most of the guys right in our group didn't get sick, but all the other guys, the minute we went under the Golden Gate Bridge and got into sea, there was guys hitting it out over the deck, blowing their stuff, blowing their cool, all over the place. In the stairways and stuff like that, the ships are rocking. When you try to eat a meal, your trays would slide from this side. You get that guy's tray with 4 guys away from you, it'd come past, then it'd go back. And the guys would puke right in their trays as they were sitting there trying to eat, because the ship was swaying that much back and forth. It's unbelievable. That made a lot of guys sick when that tray come down and it was full of puke when they come in front of you. And they go back, and the guy, he'd do the same thing, back and forth. And they took fire hoses and washed the ship down to try to get the smell off and stuff like that. It was not fun. It was a little bad experience, but I never got seasick. Like I said, knock on wood. Other than that, I had no problem.
So you had to take your equipment over.
Yes. Went over with I said our equipment, most of our equipment went on one ship, and all the troops went on the other ship, and then we got shots and stuff while we was on the ship going over, and that said we got a little introductory training while we was on the ship, waiting to go over, stuff like that.
Where'd you take basic training?
Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri. I took 10 weeks as I was there, and they wasn't ready for that many troops, so we had to clean the old World War II barracks, get them in shape for military. We scrubbed them down and stuff, and then we had 2 weeks of zero basic, they call it, and then we went through basic training. After basic, I got sent to Fort Riley, Kansas. It was supposed to be in a mechanized, but it was all infantry and stuff there. And then from there, no, not Fort Riley, Kansas, I take it back. I went to Fort Knox, Kentucky. Fort Knox, Kentucky. From there, went down to Fort Riley, Kansas. I wasn't there a week, and then we went to Florida, Everglades for training for Vietnam, which we didn't know. They was taking us down there for training, and they didn't tell us. After we got back, a month after we got back, we was headed for Vietnam, and everybody got to go home and leave quick, and then they said that was around December, January of '65, and then we went over. I really spent roughly 9.5, 10 months over in Vietnam, and I was glad to get out when I did. Everybody was. So.
Were you with the Big Red One?
Yes, ma'am. First Division, Bloody Red One. The first infantry division that's in all wars. It was in Korea, it was in World War II. That company, or that division, is the first infantry division on ground in any war. Today, years from now, in the past. It was first in Korea, first in World War II, first infantry division, actual infantry men in Vietnam War.
Okay, how many times were you at your base camp?
Off and on, a total probably of a month, here and there. Every time we'd go on for 3 or 4 weeks, we'd be back a couple of days, and we'd be on another mission and stuff. The longest time, I guess, was right around Christmas time, 1 year. And then we was only there for, like I said, a few days too, otherwise we was always on the move, checking, going on search and destroy missions. A lot of them, we was walking through the rice paddies and through the ant hills and stuff, through the jungles and stuff. Like I said earlier, whenever this one company was with us, we got hit. We was always wounded and stuff. We had to bring in helicopters to get the men out and stuff. We had to clean areas so the helicopters could land and stuff like that. One mission or 2 missions, I carried a chainsaw so we had some place to clear trees and stuff, so the helicopters could send a gurney down by cable to pick up the men and stuff. And I had a machine gun, a chainsaw and a .45, and that was my only protection. But like I said, we was a command company behind the infantry company. We was their support. It was their mission, essential, whatever they needed, and we tried to support. And I was right there when they dropped the napalm bomb right around my home base, which was right out of Benoit Air Force Base. And I seen them drop rockets and mortars and stuff with F-100s and F-4s while we was on missions out in the jungle and napalm and stuff. We had guys found a Viet Cong tied to a tree, up in a tree where we hit an ambush, and they shot the man there in the tree, hanging tied to a tree and stuff. You could always, he shot people, but you could never find him unless he was on certain missions. Then once in a while you find out, but otherwise they disappeared. You could never find no bodies. But you killed your enemy and stuff, but you can never count for bodies.
Did you carry something for good luck?
Not really. I never really had anything, because I never had anything. At the time when I went over, I didn't know I was going, so I never really carried anything for good luck. Just my personal belongings and stuff. That's it. Nothing really.
When did you get your uniforms? Did they give those to you when you were on the ship?
Yes, when we was on ship, that's when we got our jungle fatigue. Well, really not. We got them as we after we got over it, because we went over our regular fatigues, and then right when we landed, or shortly before that, then we got our in our base camp is when we got our jungle fatigues and stuff like that. In our base camp too, we had Vietnamese come in and was grading the roads and helped build them our base camp and stuff, and there too we had guys taking pictures that was running the power equipment, the road grader and stuff. They was coming and taking pictures during the daylight because they was working for the company and putting roads and stuff, and then they seen that happen, so they took care of him too while I was going on a different mission. Because while we was gone, they even built some portable barracks for us, plywood floors and upright with tents and stuff over there. Otherwise, we was sleeping right on the railroad tracks and stuff, out in the rain with ponchos, all that.
What did you sleep on when you were out in the jungle?
Most of the time, just right bare on the ground, and you put your poncho. Two guys got together, put their poncho together, and slept on the ground in your fatigues and stuff, and hope you didn't get too wet, because you try to sleep on a little side of a knoll so the water would run away. You use your helmet for a pillow. Many a night I did that and stuff, and you had your rifle laying right next to you, because there was somebody on guard all the time when you was out on patrol. While you was sleeping, another man was on guard, back and forth. If you're lucky enough you didn't get hit too bad, then you got a couple hours of sleep. Other than that, very little once in a while. So you got back to your base camp, which, like you said, you get a week or so and then you go on again to another mission.
When you went back into base camp, did you get new uniforms?
No. We washed them ourselves, kind of washed them. And then later on we got the Vietnamese to wash our uniforms. I had them Vietnamese women wash their uniform for a small feed, and they wash them and stuff like that. So, because a GI just really didn't care to wash them. But we had no women in our outfit. It was all men. And we went across the fence, and they come over and started asking to do our laundry, and they did that for a while.
What did you like when you ate? I'm assuming you ate sea rations a lot.
Yes, yeah.
What was your favorite sea ration food?
While we were stationed in Pleiku, we had an Air Force artillery advisor with us. And he was a halfway decent cook. The group of us told our sea ration together, and they would bring us, some of the Vietnamese young gals would bring us rice and bamboo shoots, and small fresh bamboo shoots, and we'd cut them up and cook them and throw our pork rations together. One night we'd take the pork, and then we'd take the beef, and then we cook that in like a stew. That was pretty good. That was the best way to eat sea rations I found. And like the beans and franks, I had them, and it was all right. So if you ate the pork cold, it wasn't just the greatest, but you had pork, you had beef, you had pork and beans, the angel food cake, fruit cocktail, angel food cake they try to pass on, the cigarettes, everybody jumped on them, the candy once in a while, the gum they give to the kids once in a while. Other than that,
what did you not like?
I didn't like the sea ration. Otherwise, when he was out in the line on a mission, you had to eat them cold. But like I said, then later on they come out with the MRI rations, which you put hot water to them and stuff like that. I never had them. I had all the old World War II sea ration. That's what I ate 90% of the time. Well, they said we got back to base camp, then we had cooks where we could get a hot meal and stuff for a couple days and go on. But them good old sea rations, them little tin cans, beans and franks and pork and beef. That's the three that I remember. There's probably another one too. Oh, there was a meatball in there too. I didn't care for that one.
Is there anything you won't eat today?
Not too much.
Okay.
My wife says I just about eat anything. So I'm not a picky eater. I can eat just about anything. Some things I'm not crazy about, but years ago I was crazy about Brussels sprouts and stuff like that. But I eat that too now.
Did you go on any R&R?
No, I had a chance of going to R&R when I was, before I got out, but at the time it was the end of the month and nobody had any money and I couldn't scrape up money. I went all over to every place I could think of and tried to borrow some money so I could go on R&R. I couldn't get any, so I didn't get to go. And other guys went to Thailand and Bangkok and all these places on R&R, but I never got to go because I didn't have any money, couldn't afford it. And they didn't take credit cards back then.
How long were you over there?
I was over for 9.5 months in the actual war zone. Because I had 2 years of service and I spent about a year, a little better than a year here in the States getting trained to go over. And we went over, we all went trained from Fort Roddy, Kansas in 1965 when the flood was, like I said, in March, when the flood waters was higher in this here area where I'm from, right here in Davidson, Breeze, all that. We had floods at that time. We had to take the train and go up through Nebraska to get to California. It took us 5-6 days to get to California because we had to take the northern right through Nebraska, Colorado to get down to San Francisco. Get off the train, went right on the ship in San Francisco, a couple days, a day there, and then we got everybody on board and the ship left Sail Learn to Golden Gates, and they told you to see the Golden Gates and wave goodbye because you might not see it yet. But a lot of my friends in, and their names are out here on the wall.
Did you see any entertainers while you were over there?
Yes, at Christmas time of '65, I seen the Bob Hope Christmas show. And I don't remember where it was at, but it was at a base up the road from us. It was a big Air Force base. Bob Hope was there, and his orchestra, and can't remember, but Miss USA was there too. Now she was the highlight of the whole program, and a couple of comedians were there. I'd have to think more on that and try to remember. Like I said, I was here this morning pulling guard duty on the wall and trying to remember a guy that I mentioned a while ago got shot the first night here, and I couldn't think of his name, but any other time I could think of his name just like that. This morning I couldn't remember his name for heck. But like I said, it was a good show. It was, I had 5, 6, 10,000 troops there when they put on a show. That was good. I admire Bob Hope for that. Then he took the courage and go out and did that on his own. And the people that did that in '65 was good. And I still picture him up on the stage with his golf club, his white hat and white suede shoes, with his golf club telling jokes. He was good. And like I said, his band, he had a band there too, but I can't remember the names anymore. That's been 40 some years ago, 50 years ago really. It's actually 50 years ago that I've been back. Memory goes bad after 50 years.
Do you remember the day that you flew home?
Yeah, I flew home on March. Well, I flew back to San Francisco, I think the 17th. My sister and her husband was stationed in San Francisco because he was in the Navy. So I spent 2 days with her before I come back. Flew into Lambert and met my parents. That was a good mission. My mother was very worried, real soft-hearted, and I am too a little bit. And she had a bad accident about 6 months before I got home, and she broke her arm and her leg in an accident and stuff. But I never found out about it until I got home. But I could see him standing there at the airport when I got off the plane. My mother was happy to see me. And about 2 years later, my younger brother went over. And that worried my mother too for a long time. But he was in a way different outfit. He was in the combat engineers. He was in an engineering outfit when he was over. So he was more or less building air runways and stuff like that, roads, and he didn't have too much problems. From what he told me, I never talked to him much about it. So, when I said it was about 2-3 years after I was back when he went in.
It was nice to have your parents
Oh yeah,
meet you.
very nice.
What did you do when you got home? Did you go straight to work?
No, I took a couple days off and then messed around. I don't remember really what I did. I had applied for jobs. It was hard getting jobs right at that time. Not so bad, but I got a job. I started working at Ford Motor Company in Hazelwood, Missouri. And one night, one afternoon, I was working early morning shift. I went to work at 4 o'clock in the morning. I was coming home one afternoon about 4 o'clock and had an automobile accident and stuff. I busted my jaw up in 3 places and busted vertebrae in my back. And so I was laid up for 6 months with a messed up back and a broken jaw and stuff like that. So then I was off. And then I worked for a young man around here, just part-time a little bit, just for a few extra bucks to help him out during the summer months. Then when I got back there, I said I couldn't cut the mustard there. I went there and didn't last, and I got laid off there. Then I went to McDonnell Douglas, and I didn't like the job I had there, so I quit there. And I was laid off there for a while. Then I was laid off, and then my dad knew a friend of his was working on a railroad, so I worked on a railroad there for about about 6 months. Then I got a job after that. Then I went to work here at Avison Lumber for a year, building chicken houses all over the country, all over India, Illinois, Missouri, Indiana, and stuff like that. We built chicken houses. Then after that, then I got on at Scott Air Force Base and worked there for 34 years. And I retired from there 15 years ago. Been retired part-time. I still work part-time for a couple of different people. Enjoying it. I can do what I want to when I want to and go from there. A lot of my friends would say, why are you still working? I said, if I didn't enjoy it, I wouldn't be doing it. So that's what it is.
Did you keep in contact with anybody that you were in the service with?
No, I have never. I had a friend of mine, shortly after we got back, he come up and seen me one weekend. He spent 3-4 days here with me. But the other guys, I lost track of everybody. But I think I still know where the man lives. My best friend, when we was in the service together, he lives in Mississippi. So, Enid, Oklahoma. That's where it's at. Enid, Oklahoma. He was a friend of mine. He was sort of my boss in a Jeep. We was driving a Jeep for patrol and stuff like that.
What veteran organizations do you belong to?
Well, after I come back, when I was in the hospital, the Legionnaires from Avison come up visit me in the hospital, and when I got out of the hospital or something, I joined the American Legion here. I've been a member of the American Legion ever since I got back, which is going on 49 years, 50 years. And then a few years ago, I joined the Vietnam Vets and stuff like that. And that's a veterans organization. But the Vietnam Vets, the guys, when they formed it, was on my case to join, but I was involved heavily with the American Legion, so I just never got involved with the vets. But I always participated, went to their deals or whatever they went to and stuff, had breakfast and stuff, fundraisers. I participated in that, but their actual activities, the meetings and stuff, I never participated until I became a member about 5 years ago. So.
Is there anything else that you'd like to say?
I just wish the boys over in Iraq right now good luck and hope they make it home. Keep your heads down, boys, and come home safe. That's about it.
Would you encourage young men and women to enlist now?
Probably would be, because United States still needs young people defense. I know it's a tough choice, but we need people to take up the fight to save our freedom and our peace, so the rest of the country can enjoy freedom and peace, so we can do what we want to. Like, we're here today celebrating the Vietnam Wall. We got a 150-year anniversary centennial of our town. We enjoy the freedom. If we didn't have young men and women in our service, we wouldn't be able to enjoy this. So that's what I say. You have to do one thing or the other and try to enjoy the peace.
Well, I would like to say thank you for serving our country.
Thank you.
And I'd also like to say thank you for giving me the opportunity to interview you today.
You're welcome.
I appreciated it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.